So I think we've seen all these before, but let's just go over them. Air Pride Beak, 3 mana, 3/4, common. Whenever your opponent casts a spell, restore 1 health to your general. This is exactly what I was talking about. Great 3-drop, right? If this sticks for the first turn, which is often the case with a defensive 3-drop that isn't a strategic threat, right? They don't have to use removal on this. It's going to get you a little bit of healing and trade off. That's good. If you're playing against Mantra, it's really strong, really, really strong. So it's a good hate card as well as a good early game card. In Gauntlet, it specifically helps against decks that rely on their Bloodborne spell to get lots of pressure in. Like, it's really good against Fae, because she now kills you half as quickly. And it's solid against anyone that's trying to be aggressive, like Xerix. You only take 1 damage from trading with the Dervish, and so on, while it's in play. So, once it gets to the late game, people are using their removal more cautiously. You can just put this in a corner and let it keep you alive. Alchemy Fugitive, 5 mana, 2/5 legendary. At the end of any turn you cast a spell, put a copy of the most recently cast spell into your action bar. This card is awesome. The first thing I went to was obviously Knucklestorm, which is the Songhai Intensify spell. So anything with Intensify is really good with this. So I think this card is going to be really interesting. It's like, the main downside is it's really slow. Like, it's Knucklestorm plus this is 6 mana, and that's hardly any board impact, but it's so much value. So if you can protect it, it's really good. There's also the fact that it's neutral. You don't have to play it in Songhai. You can play this in Lionar. If you play this behind you and put Aegis Barrier on it, you draw a card. You get another Aegis Barrier, which will draw you another card and make another unit hexproof. Now you have a 2/5, which is not too small, sitting behind you, where your opponent presumably can't hit it, with immunity from spells. So unless they have Plasma Storm, it's not dying, and you're just gonna get an Aegis Barrier every turn. That's nuts. Every turn you just like minion Aegis Barrier, drawing extra cards. So your hand size stays the same as you're playing minions. Oh no, sorry, you keep going up because you're drawing at end of turn as well. That's crazy. That could be really strong for like Owl Punch decks or something. Fizzling Mystic, 4 mana, 3/3 common. Opening Gambit, deal 2 damage to an enemy or restore 2 health to a friendly minion or general. I think this card is great. It's obviously not ladder material. It's not really powerful enough for that. But in Gauntlet, it's probably better than Frostbone Naga. Like, Naga, so that they have competing upsides. Naga is AoE, so sometimes you can hit 2 things with it. This thing can heal you and doesn't hit you in the face when you try and use it to just kill one thing, which is usually what happens. I think this is probably better than Frostbone Naga due to its reliability and flexibility, and it still deals 2 damage to the thing you most want to deal 2 damage to. Plus, it lets you put more healing in your deck, which is very important. Like, healing is hard to come by and usually quite valuable. It just buys you a turn against Fae, helps protect you from burst damage, heals up minions so they can trade again. Pretty strong. So I think this card's good. It's a nice little role player. The only downside is it's a 4-drop, and there's a lot of really good 4-drops, so it competes for space with some of the better cards. Next lot, Araras Prophet. We just went over this. It's 2 mana, 1/3 rare. Whenever you replace a card, shuffle a Brilliant Plume into your deck, which is a 0 mana spell. Restore 1 health to your general, draw a card. So this is obviously Arcanist tribal material, and I think it's really strong. I've been a fan of Nightmare Operant, shuffling a Mechazor into your deck, so I know from playing with that, like, you will draw the Brilliant Plumes. Just playing this on turn 1 and replacing it, like, your opponent may or may not feel like they have to use removal on it because it doesn't pressure them too much, but eventually you'll have a swing turn where you can Plume as part of a Mantra combo, or Plume as part of, as part of some Arcanist synergy, or just heal yourself a little bit and maybe trigger a 4 Winds Magi. You don't have to be doing anything major with it, it's still good. Excuse me. Suku, 4 mana, 2/6 epic. At the end of any player's turn, give one of their minions a random buff and keyword, excluding himself. I like this. I think this is a fun... From what I remember, the random buffs, it's like either +2/+0, +1/+1, or +0/+2, and the keywords, there's like 4 of them. It's like Frenzy, Provoke, Celerity, and Flying, I think? Something like that. So they could be quite strong. So obviously you need to have something in play when you play it, and the problem is that your opponent can play a bigger thing. So you have like a 3-drop that's got a bonus, and they have a 5-drop that's got a bonus. But then you get to attack with yours and Hasuka himself. So, you can do some stuff. I think mostly it'll be an interesting It's an interesting gauntlet card that generates unusual situations. And if your opponent doesn't have a good minion for next turn, then it's awesome. Chapuka. 5 mana 3/6 epic. Whenever your opponent summons a minion, summon a 2/1 Puka with provoke in front of it. That seems great. I think ladder wise, it's not going to be like that good. It's good tech against Swarm, I guess. I would sideboard this. But holy god, is that good in Gauntlet. Like, the 3/6 body isn't massive, but it's big enough to not just die. And most of what people do in draft is just play more minions. So it's going to be great. Like, I guess the main downside is your opponent can just play their minions behind one another, or directly in front of your stuff, or behind themselves. So actually, on reflection, it's not that good, is it? Because it does say direct. It does say in front of it. Yeah, actually, with that in mind, a lot of the time your opponent's going to be able to avoid it. But it is awesome against Xerix, because it turns, or Lilith. It's really good against Lilith because it basically turns off their Bloodborne spells. The Lodestar text what is that? At the end of both players' turns, pull some things to this minion. I presume it's like a random number of things. So that Prophet is nuts. Now we have all 3 neutral Arcanist 2-drops. Yeah, that's a good shout. And it's a nice one too. It's much better than Ether Master. Playing around Puka plays into Blast though. Oh yeah, that's a good shout actually. That's genuinely like a good point. Or Thunderhorn. Like Thunderhorn into Chapuka is pretty annoying. Lost in the Desert intensifies. I like it. So yeah, Lodestar, 6 mana 4/4 airdrop force field. At the end of both players' turns, pull some things to this minion. So I assume what that does is it takes, I don't know, maybe 1 from each player or random things and puts them next to itself at random positions or close positions. Maybe the closest tile to it. I don't know. It's something I'll have to, well, it's discoverable. We'll have to play around with it to figure out exactly how it works. But basically, it's a 6 mana 4/4 with force field that moves stuff. That seems quite good. Like, you can use it to, you can put it in a corner far away from the fighting, and then either you might get pulled over there or your opponent's threat might get pulled over there, and you can actually take some heat off yourself. So it's like a giant, kind of unreliable repulsor beast, but I think in terms of power level, it's probably not that strong, like competitively, but as an option, or especially in draft, like you're playing against Varth, right? That's a thought. You're playing against Varth. They play Saurian Finality. You play this. One of you teleports next to this in a corner. Now you have loads of room to run away from Varth and build up a resistance again. So that's actually an interesting bit of tech. Yeah, could be curious. It's also force field is quite resistant to Varth hitting it. It's reasonably strong. Next up, 1 mana 2/1. Oh my god, I just noticed this. We'll come to that in a sec. Mirror Rim, 1 mana 2/1. Opening Gambit, shuffle 3 copies of a friendly minion into your deck. So there's been some hype around this card, and I think it's deserved. This card it does some really interesting things. Or you pull Varth to yourself. Well, if you both get pulled next to the thing, that's fine. So it has airdrop, which is why it works. Like if you're on one side of the board, you put the Lodestar in the opposite corner, and then as long as it doesn't pull both of you, you've got like 4 turns of leeway for 1 card, which is really strong. Like this is the biggest general move effect in the game, right? It's got to be similar to Envy Bear in terms of power level, where it's like a bit crap, so it doesn't just make positioning worthless. So Mirror Rim, this card is very powerful. I think you have to make up for the card disadvantage, so you have to draw a lot of cards, or maybe it's quite good in Gauntlet where, you know, you can play it instead of a generic 2-drop, and if you draw it in the late game, at least it like shuffles 3 copies of Dancing Blades or whatever back into your deck, which is pretty powerful. Or 3 Storm Metal Golems or whatever. But on ladder, I think this is going to be pretty strong with Starhorn or Qualmar or other like maybe like Brome with Fealty. Basically high velocity combo decks where you end up with very few cards in your deck at the end. And so you can get extra copies of combo pieces, extra copies of burst cards, Mechanta Warbeasts, Mandrakes, that sort of thing. I think a couple of people seemed worried that it was just going to like ruin the game. I don't think it's quite that strong, but I think it does some pretty interesting things. Nemavor, 7 mana 7/7 legendary. Whenever you summon a minion, burn 3 cards from your opponent's deck. That's hilarious. So again, I think as Tony Camel G just points out, well, the burn card costs 7, so it won't get online soon. I feel like this card is not pushed, right? This is not something that we're expecting to see in every deck, fortunately, because I think this is definitely meant to be like a niche card. But that is quite strong. Like, we've been talking about Mill, Starhorn. You can play Haruspex, Sphinx. Now you could play this. You can Flash Reincarnation this and then play Zix. Like, you could play this in a Lilith deck as a funny alternate win con. With, you know, Wraithing Swarm, Zix, the Bloodborne spell. It's not that good, but it's funny. It's fatigue time. So it's going to take a lot of activations to actually mill out your opponent's deck. Like, most of the time in games of Duelyst, there's more than 20 cards left in each player's deck at the end. Usually about, like, 25, 26, right? Which means that you're milling... You have to mill them, like, 8 times before it's good. And you're probably going to get, like, 2 or 3 before they kill it because it's a 7/7. Or it kills them because it's a 7/7. So it's a bit awkward to have to put your 7-drop in a corner and then not attack with it in order to actually make use of its ability. But, one, it's an interesting counter to people who want to draw their entire deck and play Mirror Rim. So that's worth bearing in mind. 2, it's interesting against fatigue decks. Like, if the thing with Nemavor is that it's a bit slow and clunky, but if you're playing against fatigue, it's really strong. Like, if you're playing against control decks that just want to... Like, someone was talking about there's a Burn Brome deck that is meant to win in fatigue. This wrecks that, right? You play this, you Bloodborne spell or whatever, and you mill 6 cards in the deck, they can't win. Like, you take away key tools. Now you have 6 more threats in your deck, or 6 more whatever in your deck for them to trade with than they do. And they're going to be 6 cards deeper into fatigue, which doesn't make that much difference, but... yeah, I think this... What, Jack's True Sight is 15 cards milled. That is the Wombo combo. Wait. This into Embler. It destroys their deck. You play 9... No! This with the Songhai Pado card. This Mana Vortex Pado card. You mill their entire deck. Oh. The meme potential. There's so many memes you can do with this, actually. This with Gravity Well is like 12 mil and it protects it. Yeah, this into Embler and this Mana Vortex, the Pado prison card, is like... This into Ice Age. Yeah, that definitely mills their deck. That's disgusting. Wow. Yeah, actually, there's quite a few combos you can play that just kill your opponent's entire deck. And then it shouldn't be too hard to win a few turns from there, because they're taking fatigue damage and have no resources. They don't instantly die because they only take 2 damage a turn, so it takes forever for fatigue to actually kill them. The real value is you make them... They can't draw cards. Like, they're just dead because they can't draw cards. So they have a hand. They have like 5 or 6 cards left for the rest of the game. They have to deal with your 7/7 at least. The first card in this expansion I straight up despise. Don't worry, if it's like really miserable, they'll just nerf it. I feel like this is a card where you've got to experiment, right? You've got to try things. I do think that combos with this are like, that's pretty miserable to lose to. But I imagine it won't actually be very good. But I'm certainly going to try it. As long as I can spare the dust to craft a playset of a legendary. But like, I'm going to try that because I want to see, like, I need to know if 9 mana destroy your deck is good. Right? Like, Nemavor, Mana Vortex thingy, or curving this into Embler is good. I need to know if that's actually powerful. Because it is a 7/7, like, if you're playing a Vano deck, you have some ramp, you have some stall, you can probably get to the point where you can play a 7 mana do nothing that's just a big dork without losing the game, and then next turn you try and kill them. It's probably worse than Flawless combo, but it's funnier. But I think with Songhai being able to do this Mana Vortex Pandos, like, it is a 3-card combo, and it doesn't work if they have stuff near their general, and blah 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 blah. But like, that's strong. So I think this card is like potentially powerful with appropriate provisos. I don't think it's going to break the game. At least I hope it's not. But I want to find out, so they can nerf it if it does. Like if this thing is busted, I want to be the first to know. I don't want to find out by someone doing it to me. Mythron Wanderer, 6 mana, 6/6. It's a trial card, so it's a special rarity. It's a promo. Trial: have no duplicate cards in your deck. Destiny, your minions have +1/+1. I feel like I'm pretty well positioned to speak on this because I have played a lot of Highlander, just the format, and I have a good win rate, including with my Highlander decks against normal ladder decks. I think the approach you have to take to build Highlander decks is a bit different from normal. You have to rely on like little combos and having a bunch of cards in your deck that sort of work together, and mostly playing a mid-range game plan. Like you try and focus on getting big bodies, trading with removal spells, making sure your opponent can't just run you over, or outvalue you. Like you normally play a lot of value cards, so you'll win. You'll be good in the long game because you're kind of forced to be greedy because you don't have access to all the efficient stuff, or enough of it. You can slot it into the Dance of Memes Twin Fang deck. Oh, that's hilarious. Yeah. I feel like this expansion overall definitely consolidates Duelyst as a tactics game. There's a bunch of cool stuff in here, isn't there? There's a lot of interesting designs. I love to see games develop as the designers kind of flex their muscles and learn more, and I feel like Duelyst has really leaned into that. They've done really well. So the nice thing about this is, so the interesting thing about this is we're probably going to have to actually ban it in Highlander the format, because otherwise everyone will play it and it'll be boring. But I think this card is actually very good. Like, I think people are underrating it currently, because your minions have +1/+1. It's really strong text, really strong text. Like you play it. It's a 7/7, not a 6/6, which is quite a big difference. And B, anything you've got on board already gets bigger. If you've got a Bloodborne spell that makes minions, they get bigger. If you've got like walls, they get bigger. Random tokens, they get bigger. Like, it's really strong. I think this is actually going to be good. And I have a surprisingly good win rate with Highlander decks on ladder. Like, yes, you're clunky, so you just get wrecked by Swarm or whatever because you have one copy of Ghost Lightning in your entire deck. But other than that, like, you're really good against mid-range decks. You have the ability to draw answers to almost anything and a bunch of interesting lines of play that you don't normally get because you're playing a bunch of unorthodox cards. So you gain the ability to improvise your way out of situations and prevent questions your opponents aren't prepared to answer. And obviously if this becomes popular, that'll be less the case because there'll be more common Highlander decks. But if anyone wants to, maybe, I mean, there's like too many cards that I need to try on stream, but if anyone is particularly interested in this, I have been intending to do a strategy short about Highlander deck building for a while, and I will try and find time to do that soon, so that people can make good use of Mythron Wanderer, because I think this card is actually quite powerful. The best part about this card is the actual acknowledgement of Highlander as an archetype. Yeah, I agree. I don't think it's like that remarkable, given that Hearthstone did it, and, you know, in a very high-profile way. We're gonna be rich, but I think it is nice. I felt as a massive lover of Highlander, like maybe one of the format's biggest advocates, I love it. I will give you my reports on Abyss Trial. Thank you very much. I look forward to trying that as well. Right, Orb of the Ostentatious. We've discussed this already quite a lot, but I look forward to breaking it. Oh, wow. Prongbok, 3 mana 2/5 common, may move an additional space. That is very strong. Obviously, you're not really playing that in ladder, but we were talking earlier about strong 3-drops for Gauntlet and in general, and that's pretty good. Like, that really helps you control space in the early game. Like, having played with cards like Incinerer and even like the spell that gives you extra movement in Songhai, like, this is quite a powerful line of text because it really changes your opponent's ability to chase the card down, to time their attacks, and to body block. So I think this card's going to be quite interesting. Riftwalker, 4 mana 3/3 rare, airdrop, intensify, deal 1 damage to everything around it. I think this is going to be very strong. This is a mini Mercantile War Beast, basically. And once you start drawing the second and up, like the first one is worse than a Frostbone Naga, but after that it gets rapidly better. I'm looking to play this in Keep of Earth. I think it damages the keeper itself. I'm not sure, but either way, I'm looking to play it. If it doesn't damage the keeper, that's going to be great. Saber Spine. That's amazing. Saber Spine Alpha, 7 mana 5/5 common with Rush. That is a big bad gauntlet finisher. Like, basically neutral Spectral Revenant. Obviously, it's not as good as Spectral Revenant, but actually, you know, 5 damage with Rush out of hand at common. This card's going to be important. This card's going to be played, and it's going to be important. I think you will play this over a random Storm Metal Golem, like, decent amount of the time. Skarzig. 3 mana 1/2 legendary. If this minion destroys an enemy and survives, friendly Skarzig anywhere transform into Feather Knights, which is a 3 mana 4/8 with celerity. Whenever this minion attacks, give other friendly minions +1/+1. This seems to slot right into the Magmar Trial deck, where you're going to be playing a lot of buffs anyway. Because basically, I feel like what you want to do with this is buff it, right? Inner Focus plus a buff could be good, right? So you have this plus Inner Focus plus Killing Edge to get your Feather Knight. And then you get to attack for 4 again and buff your stuff. I think that's a lot of cards to put in. But I think playing this and then playing Greater Fortitude is probably the easiest way to do it. Saber Spine Mama, I like it. Now we got Tigress and Tiger. Oh yeah, they should have called this Le Tigress. That would be funny. I love it so much. That's hilarious. Just a 9 mana 25/25 World Core Golem. Oh, I love that. That's so good. That's so splashy. That's really fun. I like that a lot. That's hilarious. I mean, I don't know if it's good. I highly doubt it is, but like, that's really funny. I love that that exists. That is a card that just like, I love that. That makes me so happy. That's amazing. That's so good. I'd be stronger in line art with the new copy tutor. Ooh, yeah. Yeah, well, I have words about that card. I'll come to that. And lastly, of the neutral, Cell Soul. 3 mana 4/5. Dying Wish deal 4 damage to your general. Yet another good cheap drop. And probably goes in Lurking Fear decks. The downside is Lurking Fear, especially for Maeve, already leans so hard on her healing. And this is... you need even more of it. But on the flip side, you get a 3 mana 4/5 in your kind of Durdly tempo deck. So that seems pretty strong. This with Cadence, if it sticks, they're just dead. That's not even wrong. Yeah, you play that and they... I mean, Hearth Sister. That is... I mean, that is like the definition of OTK, right? Like, you play this, and if your opponent doesn't kill it, and you can get it next to them, it has enough... it just kills them, regardless. Play it in front of a boss and watch the boss suicide. That's hilarious. I mean, the problem is it costs 9 mana. 9 mana. But I love Crixilzo's suggestion. Like, getting this from Grimes. Like, that is how you win the game. This makes Grimes way better. Because although it's a tiny chance, the chance of getting a 25/25 off your 6-drop is disgusting. Like a Doom with a 1-turn duration, basically. I think your excitement might be getting ahead of you, the little Horus Vitae, but yeah, this is pretty good. Talk about Answer or Die, they heard us complain about that and made clear they don't care. I think that's really funny. I look forward to losing to someone who just stalls for an entire draft game and then just plays this into Cadence. World Core Golem in Apex. Oh my god, yes, yes! Apex, that's hilarious. But the problem is, you know, the absolutely saddest thing about this card though, it dies to Sunset Paragon. Can you imagine that? You play your 9 mana 25/25 and they play a pony and it dies. Magmar Trial, oh no. Oh! Yes. For those, I mean, I don't think you need a 25/25 to win once you've enabled the Magmar Trial. But that is amazing. That is so many. So for those unknown, the Magmar Trial, it's you play 6 cards that buff your minions. And then it gives all your minions Rush and Frenzy for the rest of the game. So yeah. Holy moly. Alright, next up.